What's up, guys? Welcome to B Sports Picks. So yesterday we actually lost a bet. One of the legs did hit very easily, but then the other one went over instead of the under. So I'm going to talk about that very quickly. I'm actually going to try something a little bit different today. Whenever there's two losses in a row like this been for the last 2 days, it was 7 wins and then 2 losses. I'm going to take a little bit of a step back. I'm going to tell you my thinking overall for the entire 3 games that I like. And then you guys can pick and choose what you want to do there. I already threw out the plays for the VIP. So if you want to check out the VIP, go to the link in the description where it says 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. I'm going to show you the 3 logic, 3 plays that I really like. One of them is a little bit questionable, so I might just stay away, but I'll give it to you anyway so you can take a look yourself. All right, so again, it's 7-2 run. In the last 9 days, it's been 7 winners and 2 losses on the free picks. We're actually getting a lot of traction right now, so I really appreciate everybody that's been commenting, liking, and sharing. That really does help the algorithm. So we have crossed 3,500 subscribers. Let's get to 4,000. I'm going to give you guys 3 plays that I really like in today's slate. There's one that's very questionable, so I'm going to give you the reasoning why that's questionable. So you guys just might want to stay away. But anyways, I'll when I get there. I really do appreciate you guys for getting me this far. Let's keep going. All right, so just like I mentioned, whenever I take a loss, I go back and I try to figure out what happened. I went back and I try to figure out, I went over and try to find a flaw in my thinking, and there was no flaw. It's just a fluke. Sometimes so it seems like the only thing I can think of right here that they were up by like 15, 20 points in the third right here. That's why I pointed to the third. They were up by a lot, and then they just sort of like defense, just started giving up a lot of points at the end. These guys ended up outscoring them in the fourth. So these guys were down by like 20 or 15 points or something like that. And then these guys just stopped defending. They just either sat out their starters or whatever it was. I wasn't watching the game, but then all of a sudden these guys started scoring a lot and they came back and they ended up going over by 5 points. We hit this game at a 2-3-4. They ended up hitting a 2-3-9. So we ended up losing this bet because, again, the defense just broke down at the end. In my opinion, if this wouldn't have been a blowout like in the third quarter, they would have played better defense. But it is what it is. We move on. It was a tough loss, and the Suns have burned us 2 days in a row. So very quickly, I'm not going to feed into this. There's just some idiot in the comments that says, why are you only doing alternate lines? First of all, he asked what an alternate line was. Then he says, I can't get that alternate line. Then he goes and does his little bit of research and says, you're only giving us goblin plays. So again, if you don't like what you're seeing here, you don't have to be here. It's that simple. So basically what he meant was a goblin, it just means that you're buying back points. That is actually called a teaser. This has been around for years. So by you saying it's a goblin play, whatever, again, if you don't like the play, then just don't take it. If you don't like what I'm saying, then you don't have to follow. It's that simple. By the way, I really do appreciate everyone that does comment the positive stuff. I really do get motivated by that. I appreciate every one of you. I'm going to go through 3 different games, and then you guys can pick and choose what you want to do there. But I will explain every single one of them. I just won't give you the exact lines that I'm going with because, again, there's a little bit of contradictions and stuff like that. So the first thing I like to look at is the back-to-back report, as you already know. Pelicans did play yesterday, and they're going against Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is rested, so they have a 1-day rest advantage. Memphis is at home, so they did play yesterday, but they are at home, and Minnesota has a 1-day advantage. I am taking a look at this right here because of this under that I'm looking at, and I'm going to explain that because the Pelicans are on a back-to-back, so that does affect the over-unders. Now, the second thing I like to look at is the line movement. So if you don't have access to this tool, go to the link in the description. You get 2 weeks for free. So basically all this does is called the sharp edge. And inside the sharp edge is something called the line move tool. And all it's really doing is looking at where the money is going. So for example, where the line is going, I should say, not the money. But basically, for example, right here, it says the Heat at a +1.5 is the opening line. Their current line is -1.5. So that means that the flop from being underdog to favorite. Also, it looks at the betting percentages and the money percentages, and it figures out, where the line is. It's a reverse line move and stuff like that. Then it tells you where you should be looking at. That's why this one says it's a nuclear pick because it went to a favorite and it moved 3 points. I don't always take these. These are just something that you need to start looking at. It's very important. I'm not going to go through every one of these, but here's another example. The Bulls versus the Heat. The line started at a 2.43. It's currently at a 2.36. So this line moved 7 points on the under, even though 73% of the money and 75% of the betting is coming on the over. So this is a reverse line move, and it tells you to look at the original starting line of 243. Here's some other ones if you want to take a screenshot. I'm not going to talk too much about this, but this one is one of the ones I'm looking at. 233, and it went to a 231, so that's a 2-point line move on the under. On the same tool, the sharp edge tool, sharp plays. These are not final plays. Again, this is just information. I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but it does give you the teams that you should be looking at, the over-unders, etc. So right here, this one I do like. It says the Rockets at a -5.5. Again, there's some contradictions here. I'm going to explain those contradictions, but it tells you right away what teams you should be looking at. Now, I completely skip the ones that say moderate. I just completely skip them. So this one does say moderate high. Now, once I'm done with all that, like I said, I'm already kind of putting in my head what I could be looking at, and I'm writing notes and stuff like that. Then I go into the dashboard. So right here, I just look at the projected scores. Projected scores just means what, like all the data that's being analyzed, it's put together and it tells you what teams should beat the other teams. That's it. Okay, so it's literally saying these are projected scores and it's based on a bunch of data. So right here saying the Spurs are supposed to win, the Pacers are supposed to win, 76ers are supposed to win, the Bulls and the Heat is close to call, the Timberwolves are supposed to win, and then the Rockets are supposed to win by a lot. Actually, they're supposed to win by 12 points right here. All right, now let me get into the 3 games. I'm going to go right through them very quickly. So just take notes or whatever, trying to think about what I'm saying. This is how I analyze the game. I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of that, of each game. And then, like I said, I'm going to give you the contradictions. And then on top of that, I'm going to give you guys the posters for the NBA, the points, rebounds, and assists, and the shots on goal. I actually like about 3 or 4 shots on goal today. I'm going to throw those out in the VIP. If you haven't done so, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. We know anybody that likes this type of stuff. All right, for the first game, I'll be looking at the Bulls versus the Heat. Right here, if you do the math, it's actually 236 points. That's the projected total. I'm actually looking at the over-unders. Now, remember that number 236? The opening line was 243. So immediately there was a discrepancy, and the Sharps bought it. They brought it all the way down to 235 under the projected score. So the line is dropping down dramatically. That's almost 8 points of drop, just like I showed on the other page. Yet the 76% of the bets, 74% of the money is coming in on the over, yet the line is going in the opposite direction. It's going down. So that's called sharp money going public on a reverse line move. Now, if we look at the injury report, you can see Giddey is questionable, Kobe White is questionable, Jabari Smith is questionable, Smith is questionable, and then see trade, these guys are out, this guy's doubtful. So there's a lot of injuries over here. On this side, there's a lot of injuries as well. Basically, Miami's missing their top shooting guards, and then these guys are questionable. So even if they play, they're going to be depleted. So Tyler Hero, you can count 24 points off the board. Then you got Terry Rozier is out, Davion Mitchell is out, and then Norman Powell is out. So 4 starting guards are out. I'm not going to get into all the details, but basically with all these players questionable and being out, that's about 60 to not going to be scored. So that's why the line dropped so dramatically. So the first one you can look at is actually looking at the line that I said was the opening line. That's actually what I'm buying it back up to. So if you guys want to take a look at that, or buy it up even more points and then parlay it together with one of the other legs that I'm going to talk about. So here's where the contradictions start coming in. I'm still going to take a couple of plays, but just be aware that there are contradictions. So the play I'm led is going to be the Rockets. You can see they're supposed to win this by 12 points. The line did start at 11.5, but then it's going against them right here. You can see 52% of the bets, 59% of the money is coming in on Dallas, yet the line is actually matching the public. It's going against Houston. Even though it's a contradiction, one thing you have to know is that whenever there's a huge spread like that, especially over 10 points, usually the public is willing to take the risk on the other side. That's why you see the money coming in on Dallas, because the line is already too spread out too much. So then they actually have to compensate on the other side, and the public is willing to take the Dallas Mavericks on the other side. That's why the line starts shifting in the wrong direction. So that's a contradiction. I really don't like taking stuff like that, but I don't care about this today because I'm not taking the spread. I'm actually taking them on the money line. In this game, I'm not looking at the over-unders. You start looking over here. Now you see the contradictions even further. ATS trends, the Mavericks do cover the spread 6 out of 10 games. And again, that's another reason why the public is willing to risk it and get the points at a plus 11.5. Now, two other notes right here is that the Rockets are 68% in their last 25 games, 17-8, versus bottom 10 scoring defenses. So going even further into this contradiction, you can see Davis and Kyrie Irving are out, and then Van Vliet is out over here. So basically, these guys are pretty much relying on the rookie Cooper Flag and Gafford. The projections do show that the Houston should win by 12 points, but again, the line is shifting in the wrong direction. The reason I'm still taking this is because of these injuries over here. Now, before I give you the last game that I'm looking at, again, this is the one that's worst as far as the contradiction. So you might just want to skip this one. But right here, take a screenshot if you haven't done so. These are not our final plays. These are just strong players that have been hitting their streak dramatically. So one example, I'll tell you, the Pelicans played yesterday. So the Sadiq Bey, I would stay away, especially at a 24.5. What that means is that he has to hit this line, even though that he played yesterday. Those are things that you have to kind of do your own research. That's why I say every day is that these are not our final plays. These are just strong streaks. So if you want to take a screenshot of this and then take a screenshot of this, this is for the shots on goal. Same thing. You have to do your research. These are just hot streaks, players that have been hitting their lines on a hot streak. All right, I'm going to go through this one very quickly. This is a 236 total. So the projections are actually higher than the opening line, which is not good. Even though the line did drop, the projections are actually higher than the original number. So that's already now remember I said the Pelicans played yesterday, so they traveled and they played yesterday. So those are going to be tired legs. They have hit this 66% on the under. 6 out of the last 9 games have gone on the under for the Pelicans. And then you add on the fact that they played yesterday. And the line dropped 2 points. Now, one very important thing too is that this is actually going on a reverse line move. 87% of the bets, 83% of the money is coming in on the over, yet the line is dropping 2 points. Now, the injury report is not crazy. You just got Murray that's out right here, but he is a big contributor to the Pelicans. So now one final thing I'll say about that game is that the heavy money, almost 90% of the money is coming in on the over. The line is dropping. Now, I showed you the projections, but then also you have to, the contradiction is that they played yesterday and they're on the road. So whenever they're on the road, only won 5 out of the last 29 games. So you might want to look at the money line or the spread on the 76ers. That's another way to look at this. But the under is a little bit contradiction. So again, if you want to skip this game entirely, that's up to you. Give a quick recap because that was a lot of information. Is really like Chicago and Charlotte on the under. It'll be like 247 or 243 or something like that. You can kind of look at numbers yourself. And then I like the Rockets. You can do like a -1.5 or a money line. It's up to you. Again, I'm just giving you the information that I have today, and you guys kind of pick and choose what you want. I also do have extra shots that are going to go inside the VIP, and then maybe an NHL play. I'm not sure on that. I have to wait for some other confirmation on that. Thank you guys once again for getting us to 3,500 subscribers. Let's get to 4,000. Let's have a great day.